There was nothing like this.
Try these.
It was a revelation.
It feels like we're cheating.
It did feel like we were cheating. Foureyes does what no other tool in automotive does. It was the most revolutionary sales tool we had ever seen. For the first time, we could see everything the customers were doing on the site, and it was a game changer. We weren't fighting over fresh ups anymore. There was a new way, the Foureyes way. Oh my God, we've sold all the cars. It didn't matter. We got more cars, and we sold those cars too. Now we're like #1 sales in this whole region, and it has to do with that. It has to do with that patented sales magic.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another ASOTU Edge webinar. We're so glad that you're here today. We are joined by our friends at Foureyes. We're going to be talking about AI. AI won't pay off until the data plumbing is fixed. And joining us is going to be Dave Steinberg, CEO of Foureyes, along with Daniel Kim, Director of Operations at Barnes Crossing. Enjoy.
Hey, Paul.
Yes.
How do you make a cookie?
I mean, what kind of cookie?
No. Just make a cookie, Paul.
Oh, I know where you're going with this. Flour, water, chocolate chips, butter, brown sugar.
You got it wrong. You don't know how to make a cookie.
What kind of cookie?
I told
do
you
want?
to make a cookie, Paul.
Okay, let me try again. Peanut butter, coconut.
Nope. You still don't know how to.
Give me one more
how
shot.
to bake a cookie.
Give me one more shot.
One more shot.
Molasses, a Hershey Kiss, a fork.
Absolutely wrong. You need oats and flour and raisins, and that's just the start. Here's the thing. This is what we're talking about today, actually. What we're missing as like, it's not just our industry, but it's everywhere, is the understanding that the net new thing everywhere, even everyone's saying AI, everyone's saying we need data, we need all this stuff, but the groundwork, the context, the rules, the instructions, the baseline is fragmented. It's not pulled together. We don't understand what that baseline is. And I can't wait to hang out with Dave and Daniel today, because we're talking all about the plumbing, all about the baseline, what we need to start. Because Paul, you can't just bake a cookie. You need the recipe, right?
You do. What kind of cookie? All the questions. Well, let's bring in Dave and Daniel so that we can get this going. I'm already going to say it right now. I am going to be the back of the class guy, which is no new thing for me. I'm going to be like, look, guys, I know all this stuff that you're talking about. I know all the technical stuff, but pretend that I don't for a minute.
We'll just pretend. You're
pretend.
In the back.
Yeah, but I really am smart as you three in real life. Dave, awesome. Daniel, welcome.
Hello, guys. Good to see you guys again.
Oh, it's good
all right,
to be
let's
here.
get a little bit of context, especially on Daniel, because I'd like to hear about the Barnes Crossing Group, what your role there is, and tell us a little bit about the group size and kind of what it's made up of.
Yeah, so I'm currently the Director of Operations for Barnes Crossing Auto Group. They're a 16-store group based out of Tupelo, Mississippi. We operate across 6 states, mainly in the South, including Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and a few other states.
That's fun from a sales tax perspective.
Yeah, right. Like most groups. So
that's great.
And I've been in automotive for a little over 10 years. I got started back in the days. I was a Bain consultant, and we did all the post-merger integration work for back then Auto Trader when they became Cox Automotive and bought like Vin Solutions, Viauto, HomeNet, and so on. After that, I realized I had a lot of money to be made in the automotive space. So I started a company called Orbi that you guys probably know about.
Sure do.
Back in 2015, left about like 6 years later. And here I am.
Very cool.
That's a great path into automotive, by the way.
Well, let's set it up then, David. CEO obviously of Foureyes, and we're talking about this problem that I think we haven't been talking about enough in the industry, which is we're all trying to create features right now, and we're not fixing the function. So let's get into it. We've got a couple slides to kind of get us like, what's the background on the state of the union where we're at right now?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to just jump to the end of the deck, I would say that what's really interesting, when I first went to my first NADA was 2016. First NADA, walking the floor, everything was big data, big data, big data, big data. I found my notepad from then, and it was like everybody's talking about big data, which was the idea that, hey, if you just collect it, it's going to have all this value. We don't even know what it's going to do. Back then, storage prices were going like this. All of a sudden, it was really opening up the ability to store your data. What's really interesting is automotive, and another industry that also has really poor customer satisfaction reviews, had the exact same thing happen in 2017, which was in 2017, when you start talking about big data, and this slide right here is referencing the idea that in 2014, if we were at the National Mattress Association meeting, and we were talking about selling mattresses, we'd be like, oh, we need, you made all these assumptions that you needed a mattress store to have, you needed a big warehouse, you needed to have people come in and try the mattress. And that, when Casper came out really the next year, they completely shattered the assumptions about selling a mattress.
I'm gonna say, just maybe pointing out the obvious, but maybe not. When you said another industry like automotive, you were talking about the mattress industry, right?
No, I wasn't.
Actually. Okay, well then I'm gonna see. That's why I'm here to ask these questions.
Yeah,
continue.
but so and I use this to say, what are the assumptions we're making where we're not challenging them in automotive? And the number one assumption we're making is that we are thinking that the CRM is supposed to be this receptacle for everything, and we haven't analyzed how that's holding us back. So in 2016, when big data was the whole concept of what we should be collecting, what happened was all these plumbers, the analogy would be all these plumbers and electricians started entering every single business and helping extract data to get data out and get it into a bigger system. But in automotive, and in healthcare, two things happened, which was major lawsuits. The original plumber, give Authenticom credit, they were the original plumber helping get DMS data out, and they got shut down in 2017, and the lawsuits and everything happened. Healthcare had the exact same thing. 3 major lawsuits shut down the integrators. And what happened in the industry is the plumbers left the business. There was no room. So both healthcare and automotive. And so while the rest of the world started unsiloing their data and bringing their data together and unsiloing their data, automotive and healthcare became these sort of mutant ecosystems where they evolved without plumbing, right? Without the ability of tools to talk to each other, the ability of data collection moving in. So everybody kind of knew this was a problem, but now that AI has become the big thing, it's like the problem is all of a sudden becoming really, really obvious.
Exacerbated. Yeah.
And so
yeah. I'd love to hear, because Daniel, you were going through a lot of the stuff with Orbi, and Orbi being a data company at that time, right? When this kind of like infancy of what do we do with the data is coming around. Can you give a little bit of the backstory, because and we'll get to like how you're transitioning to use that knowledge today, but I'd love to give your perspective of that timeline, because you were also dealing with big data at that time, right?
I would say all the way up to like 2018, 2019, the biggest struggle wasn't about what do we do with data. It was more of a struggle of how do we acquire that data, right? So just like what David talked about, people were, they never played nice. It was, I think, a lot of groundwork, not just on Orbi side, but as David mentioned, Authenticom and some of the other companies really trying to, and Foureyes, really trying to interface with the CRMs, DMS, and other data providers or people who provide services to the dealerships to actually send over data to you so that you can have a more comprehensive view. And man, that was just like pulling teeth, right? So to David's point, just, not having that kind of an area where you can just have all your data in one place was the backwards thing that you could think of, because nothing was coordinated and there's just a lot of missing data points and holes.
Yeah, like if you look at sort of the symptoms and you go, okay, so now fast forward to 2025, what are the symptoms of having like really poor plumbing?
Right.
Well, like one symptom, like the lowest hanging fruit, like look at how many dealers are struggling just managing consent. They'll have 8 or 9 tools all talking to the consumer. None of those tools share consent. Right. So if you opt out of one of those tools where the expectation is that you should be opting out of communication from the dealership or transactional text messages or transactional marketing. That tool is not communicating to the other 8 tools that are talking to the consumer.
It's a lawsuit waiting to happen for a lot of dealers.
Well, yeah, and we're seeing more and more dealers getting sued now.
I was going to say, I'm surprised that hasn't started happening, because usually once you get 1 or 2 out there, everybody kind of smells blood in the water.
Because we've been talking about it, we've been getting a lot of the groups that are getting sued coming to us. And so what we're seeing, there's a few basically internet trolls out of Florida, law firms that are hitting dealers up. What's interesting, it used to be a $15,000 settlement. Now it's a $30,000 settlement. So the settlement price is going up as they sort of realize what they have. But so you have consent problems. You have over communication, right? So dealers can't even understand all the different ways that they're talking to their consumer. And so they're doing these things and they're going, well, my close rate, I can't actually tell if my close rate's improving or not improving. And it's because these tools are all functioning like little satellites and they're not sharing a central nervous system. The plumbing is not hooked up to share.
I mean, I think anyone if you go out and you submit 3 leads from 3 random car dealerships, you're probably, going to get contacted by like 6 different platforms.
Well, exactly. And like another one that everybody always relates to is what I call the $2,500 problem, which is, why is everything in automotive $2,500 a month? And
because there's $1,500 in data costs.
And dealers can pay $2,500 and be okay with it per rooftop.
But what's happening?
As long as you sell one more car.
Just one more, right? Yeah. I've heard that before.
But what's happening is every software vendor is having to build their own little plumbing, and it's janky plumbing. And this is why you'll buy software that looks like a great promise, and then you use it and you're like, oh, it underwhelmed me. It didn't really work. It's because you're requiring them to build all this connectivity. And that's really expensive to build and manage. And most software companies, even in automotive, are underfunded in that department because that's not where they make their money. So they build features. Oh, look at all these great features, but the plumbing's bad. And because the plumbing's bad, they don't work as intended. It's $2,500 a month. Meanwhile, the industry outside of the automotive ecosystem is going hog wild with tools to make your life easier and build connectivity and build workflows that are so fast, where you don't have to be a coder and you can build a workflow that can do text message follow-up, email follow-up, report, send you an alert when certain metrics do all sorts of things that are just locked out from auto dealers. They're just locked out. They don't have access to it.
Yeah. And I do have a theory on this because it's quite frustrating. And I think it all stems from, I don't know what it is, but a lot of the automotive vendors say they can do everything, right? Everybody's a CDP now because
they feel like they have to,
right? And as David would probably know, and I've ran Orbi before. In order for you to build a good product, what do you need? Well, money, because you need to hire a bunch of developers and spend years building out feature sets, right? So if you're
what you think is going to be the case.
Right. If you're a company that collects data and you're doing that really well, why are you going out and saying you also do activation really well? Because you don't, right? But then they lock you in your own little system. And then instead of saying, hey, why don't you work with this other activation company that does a really good job in automotive? They just try to keep you inside. And like what David said, like they make their own plumbing and it's janky.
I think it's a symptom of what David is saying. And I think we're getting to the point that like what some people are after, and I think David is after, but it's a symptom of, let's say a company starts with data aggregation, right? Like we're going to aggregate and surface data to you so you can activate it via other means. They start to realize really quickly, the data ecosystem isn't conducive to someone living inside and on top of that, because we haven't created base level data schemas, structures, and API standards for saying like, this is how you access, talk back to, and activate on any data. So then you're forced to kind of like go vertical and horizontal all at the same time as a company in order to live on top of your data model, right? Because everything comes down to data model. Are you seeing that, David?
Yeah, I mean, like to build on that analogy, it's like when you have really bad plumbing and the foundation's bad and you're not able to move data around, every vendor becomes a contractor. And as a result, every vendor's like, I can do everything for you. I'm going to do everything. Don't worry. I'm going to take care of everything for you. And that leaves dealers kind of out in the cold going like, I bet on this vendor. Now I had to fire them. And I'm betting on this vendor. And then I had to fire them. Where when you look outside of auto or you build your data to be super connectable, you can actually, and especially in the AI sort of revolution, you can say, you know what? I have this unique problem here. I want to do this. Mm-hmm. Well, you can connect to platforms that can do that really, really fast if your data's set up the right way. And it's a plumbing problem. And what's happened is, automotive's so antsy because they live on this month-to-month cycle that we're skipping the important work to take advantage of the AI revolution, which is set up your data foundation to be able to your data should be connectable and accessible. So accessible, if you can't, we see dealer groups where they live in what we call collect and connect hell, where they have their people running around spending hours doing reports that they can't even, by the time they produce the report, they can't even tell if it's right or not. Sort of like there's a lot of asterisks by the report, and they're spending all their time. Or, we're now working with more and more dealer groups where they had hired a bunch of data analysts, but they couldn't get the plumbing of all the data organized and hygiene together. So, for example, like if you're a store and you have 16 CRMs, like Daniel does, the 16 dealers, even in a group, are still using their CRM differently. So there needs to be a level of data hygiene that comes in, organizes the data, so Daniel can start with, okay, I can see every lead, what all their opportunities are, where they came from. Right. I see everything in the CRM, and now I want to look at how do I want to connect and share this data with other platforms.
Yeah. Daniel, as you were kind of like, moving into your time with the group and thinking about like, okay, I want to either understand something about this data or activate this data. What questions were you asking? What things were you trying to solve for initially? Maybe that were pain points that were like really visceral, things that are just like, I really need to know this answer, or I really need to be able to do this, but I can't get to that end goal.
It's a little bit embarrassing to say, but it's basic level data, right? Because a lot of the what was our conversion rate across all our rooftops, right? Because yes, I can extract that data outside of the CRM that I use, but it's painful. Obviously, there are some CRMs that are better, but because I have to work inside of a specific platform to extract my data, and then the biggest issue that I had with the CRM is because a part of it is our team, or our stores, they don't log all the sales. Right. So I get the sold numbers on the CRM and it never matches the DMS. Whereas I need to something
I know which one's higher already.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So I think even just getting the basic level data for a dealership, I think is actually quite difficult. And to David's, to some of the points that we're talking about, the way how is this applicable for the dealer principals of the world? Because I really don't understand some of it. The way I look at it is eventually what's going to happen, you see in a buy-sell transaction, right? You're selling goodwill, right? The real estate, fixed assets, your inventory. There's going to be a big portion called your customer data. And I see that being sold for $5 million, right?
When did I say it?
It was easily 12 months ago.
It was 3.5 years ago.
Okay. See,
we were standing with Alan Haig. And I said, Alan, has anybody in a transaction asked you about data quality and put a number valuation on that yet? And he said, we haven't even thought of it. And I'm telling you, the time is coming faster than anything because I'm buying data. I'm buying data all day long because that's my upside, right? Like Tesla's a data company. They're not a car company. They're aggregating data. How do we we're aggregating real estate and data, right? As companies.
Because if I'm selling a store and I'm like, you know what, I have 7 years worth of data of 200,000 customers who serviced and bought cars from my dealership.
Normalized,
that you can market to, man,
it's over.
I mean, that's worth a lot of money.
And in one example, Daniel actually uses a platform called Metabase. I have no concept of Metabase. I didn't know Metabase. My team now knows Metabase just from working with Daniel. But we needed to set up the data so that he could connect Metabase to it. And Metabase allows him to do reports, and he knows how to work it and do some things, right? So like Metabase was off limits to him in his old system of being able to be a tool that is, it's not expensive. I don't know what you pay for Metabase. I'm imagining
it's like $80 a month.
$80 a month.
5 users.
Lives on top of a Postgres server, and he just can query that thing with SQL queries all day, and he's just
and he can write.
But he would pay $2,500 for it, is what we're hearing.
Well, probably if it was an automotive specific.
We'll need to make sure that they don't hear any of this.
But that's the point. Like, how do you set up the data to allow him to be able to connect it? And I think Kyle, you mentioned like the different right now people, if you just want to talk to like a chat GPT with your data, it is, you gotta rely on a vendor to get you there rather than saying, well, I just want to send this customer profile into chat GPT. And we built something that, is a hard deal finder, where it can help a salesperson pencil a hard deal the way your store wants to pencil it. That's pennies on the dollar versus spending $4,000 a month to have some tool and some vendor come in and have.
Yeah, and if we thought that a CDP is important, an MCP server is even more important these days, right? Which is actually another layer of data structuring that
and another acronym.
Yeah.
Acronym all the way around, right?
Most vendors, if you tell them I want to create my own ChatGPT, they're not going to say, well, here is here is some data set that I can plug into an MCP that you can then go and find amazing third-party tools outside of automotive. Most of the vendors are going to be like, well, I have a GPT for you that you can use for $4,000, right? And it's not going to be great, right? And that's one of the reasons I think I've worked with David more, because I think he gets it. I think maybe because he's also like a technical co-founder, but like the experience I've had is like, he doesn't care where I push the data, right? He doesn't care if I use his product. It's like, he is literally like, and it's hard, right? Because for car dealerships, like I do have some technical capability, but I still don't have developers. I don't have a data scientist. I can't go to my dealer's principal and be like, hey, I need a data scientist for $150,000 a year. He's going to be like, are you silly?
How many salespeople I can hire for that?
Yeah. Right. So I need to it was hard for me to kind of figure out who that person was. And it was a lot of trial and error. So, I mean, I would say like, try to find vendors who are trying to help you build your data warehouse and less about like trying to sell you features and products that they have.
David, what's current state? Where are we at right now? What can dealers have right now? And what should good look like? And what's kind of next frontier?
Yeah, I mean, so we now have basically, we're getting more and more dealer groups, Barnes Crossing being one of them, but the list is growing by the day right now of dealer groups coming to us where we're consolidating, connecting, cleaning, putting hygiene processes on, bringing all their data together in a centralized place, and then allowing them to choose how they want to activate it. Where do they want to send, and connecting them to tools that allow them to build activations very easily. We have another dealer group where they brought me an activation tool that they're using where they were able to build all these alerts and do all these crazy things on things that were nowhere in our roadmap. We were never going to develop those. But they built them within hours of getting set up in their data warehouse. They now have alerts going off when things are happening, firing to different sales managers, firing to different people based off changes in the data. And that was, again, they weren't waiting for our software to do that. They just needed the connected data. And now that the outside world, I mean, the automotive's a little bit like North Korea right now. I'm trying to open their eyes and go, guys, the outside world has changed because they didn't have these connectivity problems for the last 9 years. And so let's solve the connectivity problem, and you can participate in 2025, which, again, like, and this is not about like, knocking other vendors. Our job is to enable other vendors to do a much better job. And I think that, I think there's such an onus on automotive software vendors having to build plumbing and piping. We don't even talk about the dirty side of the equation, which is like, when you look at consent problems as an example, part of the reason they're not solved, the CRMs haven't really taken ownership over consent. and they don't even, most of them don't even have a way to update consent if you're a vendor. So
yeah, not via API at least.
We wrote our own system to update consent, and we let dealers choose how they want to update consent so that when a vendor unsubscribes, it can automatically write it back in the CRM. Right? That's like simple connectivity functionality that has not existed in this space.
I mean, the fact that we still use notes for any CRM updates for maybe notes, you can write in the notes, this person opted out, right?
Yeah.
Well, and too, like everyone goes, well, just log everything in the CRM. Well, as all these vendors log everything in the CRM, what happens is the notes go, and now they become unusable.
Yeah.
And so it's like, no, what happens is what the CRM was meant to do is to be a task manager that helps the salesperson or BDC staff do the right task at the right time. That is the highest and best use of the CRM.
Well, let's talk about what it could look like, because I want to make sure we get to this point before we run out of time. What could it look like?
Well, it could look like you're able to solve the process problems with yourself without having to, wait for years for a software vendor to come in with a solution that maybe promises to solve it and underwhelms you. That's what really looks like. I think what it looks like behind the scenes is that you have access to your own data where you're leveraging it and making decisions rather than keeping your teams in collect and connect hell where they're just trying to find access to the data. One of the, it's crazy because we do an exercise where we'll show dealers their connected data. And we'll say, let's talk about some of your stores. What happens, what's really interesting is how many dealers, if I say, hey, let's play a game, and you have to increase your sales 15% next month and keep your unit economics the same. What do? Most dealers will come up with a marketing idea. I'm going to market this. When in fact, there's usually a sales process problem that they just can't see because they haven't been able to see. So leads are getting stuck in the BDC, underperforming salespeople. They have certain problems that are affecting their visibility. And if they just try to market more, it's just wasted money. And so you have to solve those underlying problems. It's like if you have a funnel, you don't fix the funnel by poking around the edges. You poke up through the bottom of the funnel. Right. But we've been so conditioned to marketing being the system that solves all problems. We've been overserved on marketing that we're making all these crazy decisions and we're firing vendors and changing things and doing things rather than just stepping back and going, let's do what the rest of the industry did in 2017, what the rest of the world did in 2017. Let's bring all our data together. Let's start from a baseline place. Let's worry about connectivity and make it super accessible. It's crazy to me, the amount of things our customers are doing right now with their own data that I haven't even thought of. That is where they're.
Well, that's what I like. But dealers are entrepreneurial people. They're going to think of wild, harebrained ideas, and they're going to want to do it tomorrow, right? Yeah. Like we know this, and Daniel's going to be one of them. I can tell.
Well, Daniel's already doing it. Daniel does it daily. Daniel is already
and to the question of what do I want things to look like, and we are getting there. One is have own my data, have it processed in a way where I can connect to whatever tool I want outside of the automotive and inside of automotive, right? So whether it's my own GPT or a BI tool or a CDP or activation channel or send it over to the Lob, right? So I can do my own direct mail and not have to worry about working with some of the industry partners. And then the second thing is once I have all that data, what I would like is then for the automotive vendors to then also accept, right? Some of because I want to be the central repository of data. If somebody on my AI chat tool told me that they wanted to trade in a specific vehicle, I don't want that in the notes as a link that you click on to view what the conversation was. I want the customer profile to be updated saying it is a trading customer with a 2022 Toyota Camry with 60,000 miles and they owe $20,000 on the car, right? Like that to me then even allows a lot of the automotive tools that we have right now, including CRM and everything to be, I think, used more so effective.
And if you think about it too, like an easy example to think about. So sales phone calls are still the number one closing source. Like a sales phone call closes higher than a dealer website lead, closes higher than anything. Now, you get less of them. But if you have a if I talk to Paul for 12 minutes and Paul tells me, here's my situation, I just totaled my car, I just did this, here's what I'm looking for. There's all this information that Paul gives us. But the information that Paul gives us is not shared with your AI vendors. It's not shared with anybody. So then your AI vendor who goes out and talks to them seems really dumb because they're not actually getting the 12-minute information where Paul said exactly what he wanted. He needs a car that can tow 7,000 pounds. He needs this, he needs this, he needs this. Mm-hmm. And so that information needs to be collected and shared with the other vendors who are talking to Paul. And when you do that, you have a much better user experience because suddenly everything's working together. And
what happens, I think we got a couple of slides, like what happens when you do all this right? I think, the business outcome of this, and you've got a couple of slides on, what close rates looks like when you start to look at this data in this way. What happens? What's the better way here?
I think one of the things we're looking at is twofold. One, automotive has built a cherry picking model to cherry pick leads and throw the rest out. And that model tends to die as leads become more expensive. And so what we do is we'll break down close rate by age cohort. So what we're looking at is, what are you closing the first 3 days? What are you closing day 4 to 7? What are you closing 8 to 14? What are you closing 15 to 30? Your automation and a lot of your processes need to pick up days 4 to 30 and should improve your long-term close rate days 4 to 30. That's what you're looking at. Second of all, like in this example, you see this line that says industry close rate, and see how exclusive cars is 9.7%, where Portland City Cars is 13.1. That's because we're taking every dealer's lead bucket and saying, what would other dealers close with the same lead bucket, with the same lead mix? And so you see exclusive cars has a weaker lead mix because our expectations for them are only 9.7. One of the problems dealers have is they don't understand what is good performance and what is bad performance. And so saying, based on your lead mix, this is what we would expect from you to be at the sort of the 50% line. Well, what's the 75% line? What's a top dealer doing? So much of, we measure 45,000 salespeople right now. So much of what we're doing now is looking at, hey, let's take the dealers that are in the top 30 or 40% and say, what does the top 10% of dealers do? So dealers right now struggle because they'll have good Johnny, you're closing, you're doing great. But if you were a top 10% closer, you would have closed 6 more deals. And let me show you how you would have done that. That's the access to data dealers just don't have.
All right. We have a little bit of time for a final word from Daniel before we have to wrap it up here. You have a final word?
Yeah. I think, you asked what am I striving for? I'm looking for a world where I think it's 2 things. One, just increase efficiency because we're using our BI tool to figure out exactly what's happening. All our tools that we pay for are communicating with each other, and there's like this unified voice that the customer gets. And we're able to use a lot of AI to kind of help salespeople figure out what leads to focus on, what they need to work on, and maybe there's some aspect of kind of automation that also happens. And then on the cost side of things, man, I look at some of these solutions outside of the automotive space. Guess what? They don't charge you per rooftop, right? They just charge, like when McDonald's signs up with a CDP, they don't charge you per franchise location. They just charge McDonald's. Yeah. Right. And that's what I also get excited about because it's a fraction of the cost and a much better product. And that's why I think it's important to the biggest challenge that I literally
posted a week ago. I said that every AI company that is positioning themselves as AI native to auto should watch out because there are AI companies that as soon as they can tap into the data of auto will literally run wild on this industry. And we saw it first when 11 Labs decided to put an agent in their back end that was dedicated to retail auto. And all you had to do is connect an MCP server and you could have a full voice and chat agent within 3 minutes on 11 Labs recorded to a person in your company. Like that's what's crazy. So David, Daniel, this has been, I mean, you, me, we're just getting we're going to nerd out for another half hour. We'll let all the other people go for a minute. But thank you so much for joining us again on this Edge webinar. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Every single one of the Elite 1000, they're wearing glasses.
A lot of people wear glasses.
No, they're wearing the same glasses. Look.
Foureyes. Son of a...
All right, everyone, that's a wrap. Thanks for spending some time with us today. If you want to check this out again or send it to a friend, you can catch it on our website. Go to www.asotu.com, click on media, and drop down to webinars. Have a great day.